I truly believe that the wars in Gaza and the Ukraine will probably never end, at least in the near future. Just when you think these wars are going to end, or the media tells you that they're going to end, there's another bombing. At least in the near future, I think this is the way it's going to be. Alternative energy is another issue, but at least in the near future, I don't think these wars are going to end, and I will tell you why. A lot of these people that cause these wars, the moneyed interests that own the world that cause these wars, tend to cause these kinds of wars in areas where you have a lot of natural gas and oil, like in the Middle East and the Ukraine and these type of regions. It's a recurring theme in history when you look at a map of world history, so to speak. It's a recurring theme in history. In this video, I'm going to talk about this and all these never-ending wars in the Middle East and why the Middle East and the world is like this, and Greta Thunberg. I'm going to talk about her and what she has recently gone through. So here we go. Here's my summarization on these complex issues. There's simply too much money in war. That's another big problem with the war issue. War is a business. It's not just oil. War is a business. There's simply too much money in war. What did Smedley Butler call war? War is a racket. I call it a business or a business enterprise. It's pretty much the same thing. The reality is there's too much money in war. Most wars in world history were in these regions. Russia and Saudi Arabia were basically never democracies. And there's rarely been peace in the Middle East or south of Turkey when you look at world history. In the middle of the world, there has usually never been peace. The only countries in the Middle East that were democracies tended to be friendly with the U.S., which was Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. They are rich oil countries that leaned more towards real democracies, depending on how you look at it. They were also very small nations. Greta Thunberg, a green or an environmental activist, recently tried to get aid to the Palestinian people twice via a flotilla. She was twice rejected by Israel. Her and her other activist friends were twice rejected by Israel. This was wrong. Recently, Greta Thunberg and her activist friends have accused the state of Israel of torture during the brief time they were in Israel when all this was going on. It is being alleged that they were tortured. This is horrible. Israel should be held accountable if it's true. Israel should be brought up on charges in the UN for this and other matters. Israel should not be allowed to get away with any of this just because they are an ally of the West and the United States. I don't think these wars are ever going to end over there. Has it ever? This whole situation and these wars in the Middle East are a scam and a psyop on the human mind. They have you believing the wars will end. I think they will never end. All nations in the Middle East need reform. Almost none of them are republics or democracies. I had mentioned the examples of the UAE and Qatar, but they are very, very small minorities of countries that are democracies over there. They need an Israeli state and a much larger Palestinian state. The Israeli state needs massive reform. They are now becoming a lot more like a dictatorship that is a right-wing socialist state that largely lives off the U.S. taxpayers. We need to accept this fact. Going back to 1947 or the late 40s, Israel was created out of the disaster of World War II to help the Jewish people. I actually believe a much more sinister agenda may have been afoot because I think Israel was largely created and placed in the Middle East to keep all these wars going in the Middle East because there's so much money in war. The state of Israel almost has to exist now. It would be another humanitarian nightmare to move Jews out of there. Almost 100 million people live in that region of the world, especially after World War II. The creation of the state of Israel was controversial, and some people think it was needed at the time because of what the Nazis did to the Jews during World War II. The state of Israel, I do think, needs to exist, but it needs massive reform. I doubt if that will ever happen. Netanyahu supporting the removal of Palestinians out of there way back was a mistake because of what it will lead to. More humanitarian nightmares. The U.S. and the West cannot take all these Jews and Palestinians into their countries. It's simply not reality. Many of these people will not even fit in those nations. They've got to make this work, or they're mostly going to end up dead. They've got to find a way to live together, or it's all over for them in that sub-region of the Middle East. Eventually, they will need another settlement, because this is not a true two-state solution. Palestine's future is once again up in the air as a colony of Israel. The occupation continues. Technically, Palestine is really a colony of the United States because we fund Israel in all their crazy agendas. The occupation, folks, continues. I seriously doubt if there will ever be peace in this region. Has there ever? It's being set up like this because of the oil and all the money in war. The occupation is continuing under another label. I seriously doubt if they will ever get peace over there. I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt it. It could go on and on forever like this, especially between Israel and Palestine. So when is the next bombing going to occur? Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. I will see you again next week with more exciting content. Make sure you vote on Tuesday. Make an informed decision. Have a safe and a great Halloween this weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Enjoy yourself. Make sure you know what's going on with voting. I will see you again next week. It's free to subscribe.